Welcome back to session 4 of the PODS writing workshop. 4 steps to write an effective essay. Today, we're focused specifically on step 4, which is style. But let's walk through the 4-phased approach that we've discussed over the last 4 videos. The first phase was purpose. In purpose, we focused on understanding the purpose for writing to begin with. Why did we purpose to start down this road? We brainstormed, we chose a topic, and we decided the outcome of the paper, which was our purpose. Did we want someone to be convinced? Did we want to inform? Did we want to analyze? Maybe it was an analysis of a research, paper, article, journal, or topic. We had a hypothesis, a question that we posed that was a guess based on educated information that helped us figure out how we were going to write to explain, analyze, or convince someone to believe our position. Phase 2. We focused on outline. Outlining helped us to create a structure. It helped us to organize our ideas in order. It helped us to really think deeply about the parallelism of what we were trying to get across in our purpose. We asked someone in our pod, our group that we're associated with, to take a look and provide feedback about our flow and our support. After doing so, we then focused on detail. So we had our purpose, we had our outline to keep a perimeter around what we were writing, we clarified the points with the flow and the support, and then we dug into the detail. We got really deep into the detail in session 3, filling in the gaps of the outline, focusing on APA 7th edition, and noting the importance of formatting, grammar, spacing, headings, order, and style of the paper. And because we had so much emphasis on detail, we really didn't get into style. So here we are. In the phase 4 approach, the 4-phased approach, we are here at session 4. So why is style last? Well, have you ever gotten ready to go work out, take a jog, take a walk with friends? You decided to wear tennis shoes. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. You decided to wear flip-flops. You decided to wear boots because you were taking a hike. That was the difference between you deciding to go to a job interview where you may wore a professional outfit, a suit jacket, a tie, a blouse, a button-up shirt, pants, a long skirt. Each of those decisions is a decision in style. It's the last step that you use to decide that you are ready to submit yourself for the interview. Here, style is going to be what we use to finalize our submission of our paper, to ensure that we've checked all the boxes. We decided why we woke up. That was our purpose. We decided what we would do for the day and how we would get it done. That was the outline. And then we got into the detail of we have a 10 o'clock meeting. We have class at 11. We have another class at 12:30. Oh, maybe I have 30 minutes at 12 to grab lunch. At 1:30, I need to go and run to the store. At 3 o'clock, I'm going to have a break. I'm going to eat dinner around 6. Those are the details. Then we get into the style. Well, today, because I have these different activities, I need to take with me an outfit for my interview. I need to have a different outfit for my Zoom call. I need to ensure that I have clothes to stop by the store so I can work out and grab some water and do all the different activities and be comfortable in that. As I submit myself to my day, similarly, we will submit ourselves to our paper. We will submit ourselves to the effort needed to finalize our paper with proper style. And today's style is focused on APA 7th edition. We're going to check the format, the grammar, and more. But really today, we're going to hone in on citing our work, ensuring our references are documented correctly. So let's just do a quick review of effective scholarly writing. To effectively write in a scholarly and academic way, we need to ensure we have continuity and flow, transitions, avoiding noun strings. We need conciseness and clarity. We need to avoid wordiness and redundancy. And in so doing, we can have clearer sentences, and our paragraph length can correspond to what we're trying to get across. An introductory sentence, a conclusion sentence, and then supporting information in between. Is our paper properly following tone? Are we getting across the tone that we are positive or we believe in our thoughts and our ideas? Are we believing in the hypothesis that we started with, or halfway through the paper, we begin to take a different tone, a tone of disbelief, a tone of, hey, you can see that I really do not support this, and I'm starting to write that way. Are there contractions and colloquialisms? Are we saying do not or don't? Are there colloquialisms, things that we say in our home and community, things that we may say with our friends that should not be in our academic and scholarly work? Do we use jargon, things that other people recognize that potentially are not things that we should be saying in an academic or scholarly writing? Are there logical comparisons? Are we comparing apples and apples? Or are we comparing apples and oranges? Are we comparing rice and noodles? Or are we only comparing rice and rice? Now, what about the anthropomorphism? Are we ensuring that the statements we make about things, that we're not using humanly traits towards things that are not human? And formatting. Oh, important. That is so important, formatting. We're going to talk today about setting up your paper with proper format so that if you begin that way, it will just help you as you begin to write, type, and really put all the text into the paper. What are the order of your pages? That's so important. Your page header, your font, any special characters you need to ensure there, line spacing, margins, paragraph alignment, paragraph indentation, paper length, organization, principles of organization, heading levels, and section labels. These are very important aspects of your paper because without an organized paper, without a formatted paper, you find yourself in the wilderness of trying to explain with flow, continuity, and consistency what message you hope to get across. So we're going to do a sample paper review today. We're going to go through several aspects of tools and guides that I will be sharing with ACEE. They will be made available to you, and they're all approved by APA 7. I recommend for those that can, get to your library, purchase if you can, a guide or a guidebook, a manual from APA 7, share it with your friends, purchase it together. Get into the library's resources because there are many resources available on APA 7th edition website, but those resources are limited because they don't give you all of the steps and details to ensure that your paper is rightly formatted and correct. So we're going to go through the big things today. The top level, creating an APA guide, creating an APA style reference list, in-text citation checklist, journal article reference checklist. We're going to talk about paraphrasing and citation. I have an activity page that I will be also providing to ACEE, a common reference examples guide, an APA style reference guide. Again, this is for journal articles, books, and edited book chapters. Those are, you're going to see more often your journal articles as you're searching online or using your research port, your books, and your edited book chapters. And we want to make sure that we actually use APA 7th edition properly to ensure we're documenting our references. We're going to talk about the 6 steps to properly cite something, cite your work. There's an infographic I'm going to share also. And then we also have a student paper that we're going to go through, a student paper checklist. And that student paper checklist will help you in many ways, but specifically just to organize your thoughts around what your outcome is. And then we're going to finalize by going back to the student paper checklist. And in the student paper checklist, we're going to review the different steps that we discussed throughout the paper, and then we're going to be done. So walk with me today as we take a walk down the avenue or the aisle or alley of style. First, as we talk about style, I want you to think about strategies to improve your writing. What does that mean? We all have room for improvement. Don't take this as an opportunity to judge yourself or to feel put down or to say that, hey, I don't write well. But the more you read to learn through example, the better your writing will be. I too, I'm a writer. I'm a communication specialist. I do this a lot. I do public speaking. And even I must listen to other speakers. Even I must read other works. Even I must find other examples that I can learn from so I can smoothly get my messages across. Write from an outline. Oh, it's so important to write from an outline because when your thoughts are organized, it's just a matter of you taking the quiet time to fill in the detail. Write from an outline. Now, what about rereading the draft? Vitally important to take a step away after you write and then come back to it with a clear head and say, did I really get across my message? And if you don't feel comfortable judging your own work, that's important to seek help from your fellow students. Other people around you that care about you will tell you the truth. They'll tell you that, hey, I don't think this comma goes there. I don't think that this is your work. Do you have a reference for this? I don't think you're making a statement that you can say without any support. And we'll talk about what that means. And what about working with the writing centers? It's nothing wrong with feeling a little uncomfortable that your writing may not be up to par. And going to get professional help, that's what the writing centers are there for. The writing centers are there to help you be the best student you can be, to be the best professional and academic and scholar you can be. It is much worse to assume that you can jump out, put your papers out, have them published because someone's offering you an opportunity, only to discover that the other opportunities never come because of the first work you put out. It is much worse to seek your own advice by jumping out and not seeking help because other opportunities can be quashed or quelled because of your inability to write. So today we're talking about strategies to improve our writing and how it is very important to always keep coming back and revising our paper. That's the last step. You have to be comfortable in revising what you wrote. And in order to do all of this, you have to make sure you give yourself enough time. It's not going to be a well-written paper if you try to write it the day that it's due or even the night before. Make sure you give yourself enough time to read through other works, to write from an outline, to reread the draft, to seek help from your fellow students, giving them enough time to give you feedback, working with writing centers if you felt uncomfortable or maybe the feedback you receive, you don't know how to incorporate that feedback, and also revising your paper. After all the feedback, it's very important to revise the paper and incorporate it. Now, here are some different tools available for you, and I did the work to look them up. It's on the APA style website, and make sure that if you do go look for help, that you're looking at an approved website, apa.org, apa.org. Style and grammar guidelines are available for you, but I've also taken the liberty to download them, and I will be including them with this presentation. And finally, the APA sample papers and templates that we're going to kind of walk through today. Some of those sample papers are academic papers, and some of those sample papers are also professional papers. Make sure you look at the proper paper so that you're not following the guidelines for the wrong type of paper based on template. And then there are instructional aids and handouts and guides that I've also taken the liberty to download for you and make them available through this presentation. So we're done with this today, and we're going to keep on moving to the next part of this. I'm not going to save this because it's important that we start talking about creating an APA style reference list guide. What does that mean? Well, the reference list contains all the works you cited in the text of your paper, your last page. In general, there should be a one-to-one correspondence between the works cited in the text and the works listed in the reference list. There should be a correspondence of one-to-one. Well, what does that one-to-one correspondence look like? Well, one-to-one correspondence simply says that if you state something in your paper and you say that here is the information I received from reading, I also should have it documented in my works cited or in my reference list that here is everything that I said throughout the paper, and here is the actual reference to it. If it's cited in your paper, but there's no reference to it, that's incorrect. If you read a work while doing your literature search, but did not end up citing it in the text of your paper, do not include it in the reference list. A lot of times we will want to jump to writing things and saying, I read a lot, so let me just go ahead and list everything that I read, even though I'm not going to use it. That's not correct because that reference list should be a comparison between the two. It's great that you read additional works, but we don't want to just start listing off everything just for the purpose of filling up the page. Here again, use the section label references, not works cited or bibliography. This is very important because APA 7 actually says that these are references, not a bibliography or works cited. And always remember that when you actually do this, you want to ensure that you're following the guidelines for whatever your teacher suggests. But if the teacher says APA 7th edition, ensure that you follow this. Now, I'm not going to go through every line of this today because I want to make sure that this video really touches on the key points for you. But here again, we want to talk about formatting. You see, formatting is so important that format is just not for the paper, but it's also for aspects and parts of the paper. You want to double space the reference list, both within and between references. Do not add extra lines between references. Order references alphabetically, usually by the first letter of the first author's last name. I'm going to show you a sample of that and show you what that looks like. So let's take a look at this paper here. This paper here is a Word doc of a sample paper. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom for you so you can see what I'm talking about. So here you see the last name, and I'm going to change the view of this so you can get a good view. And I'm doing this live so you can actually see the opportunity for you to flow between the different documents and pages. So here we have the references. You see the last name, Achterberg, comma J. Well, after the AC comes AM, American Psychological Association. So that's what we mean by alphabetizing and putting this in alphabetical order based on the actual reference last name, or here the organization name and how it fits into the order of what we're discussing. So let's go back to the document we were just talking about. You want to make sure that you include the author's first and middle initials if they have them. Do not write out first or middle names. Do not write out first or middle names. Do not write out. So here, a lot of times we have a tendency to want to put their first name and middle initial, or first name and middle name. We always want to make sure we just use the initials themselves and do not write out those first and last name, those first and middle names, only writing out and spelling out the last name. I love this part here because this is more of a style piece that I'm going to have to show you in the actual Word doc itself. And here, this is applying a hanging indent for all references using the paragraph formatting function of your word processing program. So the first line is flush left, and all subsequent lines are indented 0.5 inches. So apply a hanging indent for all references using the paragraph formatting function of your word processing program. Well, where is that at? So if you were using Microsoft Word, let's go back to Microsoft Word. And let's say here, this was not indented properly. I'm going to remove the indentation here. And that just, I clicked on a link and you'll see that these are hot links when you get the paper. So I'm going to change this here where this one that I'm referencing is, I'm going to highlight it so you see what I'm talking about. This one here has a hanging indent on it. You'll see when the ruler, if you don't have a ruler, you can go to view and you can actually add or remove the ruler. So I'm going to put the ruler back and you see the ruler popped up here at the top. I'm going to scroll back to my reference. And now I have my ruler. You see that this second line. So here we are. This is the first line indent. If I take this, it's going to move the first line over. If I move it back, the second line is what's called a hanging indentation. So it's three little dots here. You have this pointing arrow down, this pointing arrow up, and right underneath it is the combination of the two. So if I move this square, then it actually moves all lines. If I go right above it and it says left indent, I can actually move that over to get my hanging indentation. I can move that right over to a 1/2 inch. So 0.5, 1/2 inch. So if this is 1 inch, then halfway between the two is your 0.5. Well, another way that it says we can do that is we can go up here and highlight this. I'm going to go to my home button here. And then underneath this option, then I'm going to have another option here for the paragraph style. So here's my line spacing. And I just clicked the down arrow. I'm in Microsoft Word. I click the down arrow. I go to line spacing options. So here you see it says indentation. So indents and spacing. General option. Here's my alignment left. Your outline level is body text. I want to outline everything based on the text of the in the body of the paper. My indentation. Again, I'm indenting on the left 0 inches, on the right 0 inches, but that's because I have a special hanging indent. If I say none, this changes back and I hit OK. You see it removed the hanging indentation. So there are two ways to do it. You can actually move this over, which is this second little arrow pointing up. I'm going to put this back. I'm going to highlight these 3 lines, and because I use the enter key or I just type them together, when I hit the enter key to go down, it shows that this is actually one combined entry. I'm going to go back to my paragraph style. Because I have this double spaced, I can go back to my line spacing, and here you'll see double at the very bottom under spacing, but we're focused on indentation today. I'm going to go to special. I'm going to say hanging indent. First question they ask is, do you want 0.5 inches? The answer is yes. I'm going to hit OK. And now I have hanging indentation. That's how you do a hanging indent, either using the ruler or the paragraph style. So I hope that was very helpful for you, but let's keep on moving. I think it's also important for us to think about what type of documents are we focused on. And because we're focused on different types of documents, you must include different elements to really get to a good style. Because a style is all about, are you inclusive of what's needed for someone to verify what you said was your reference? So here again, I'm not going to go through every line because I'm going to include this with you, but here are a few pointers. There are 3 different types of entries. There's a narrative in-text citation. So in a narrative in-text citation, you're actually going to be making a statement based on what someone else wrote, but you're going to use their name. Sanders and Zhang in 2020, you put that in parentheses, found ... Or you have the parenthetical in-text citation. In the parenthetical in-text citation, you're actually going to put what was found, a positive association was found, but you're not going to use their name. You're actually just going to state the information. And then parenthetically, you're going to put the names Sanders and Zhang, comma, and the year. And the punctuation, the period. You see, the period comes after the final parenthesis. So what's the difference between these two? Well, the first one is you can use the and here. You can use an and here. So it's very important that we think about the and, because the and is different from this ampersand. So you see in the in text, the parenthetical, you can put the ampersand just to save space. It still means and. But for proper writing, and we're talking about stylistically writing in an academic way, Sanders, and you must type out the word and Zhang. Now in your reference list entry, how you would list this is, again, you would have the name, again, the last name, comma, the first name initial, period, middle name initial, period, comma, and then you can use the and, again, the ampersand, Zhang. So Sanders, ampersand, Zhang, just like you would have in a parenthetical in text citation. And then you have comma, first name initial, period, middle name initial, period, then parentheses of the year, and then a period. So again, the punctuation comes after the parenthesis. And again, you're really focused on each of the details, such as how many authors are there. Again, you want to look at this when you receive these documents. You want to go through. You don't need to know all of this for every different type of entry, because the most important thing is when you actually are formatting your paper to know that there is a format, that there is a source element based on what type of document you're actually either narratively citing in text, parenthetically citing in text, or referencing in your entry of your references. So let's jump to the in-text citation. Well, they created a checklist for you. The 7th edition includes a checklist. The first thing is part of your style is to complete the following checklist for each sentence in your paper that relies on another source. It's very important. It seems like it's very time consuming, but these are just quick checks that you can do. First, remember to cite all ideas, findings, results, or other information that is not your own. If it is not common knowledge, you didn't come up with it on your own. So it may be helpful to highlight or annotate your paper to remind yourself of what information comes from another source and what is yours that you contributed. Let me show you what an annotation looks like. An annotation says, I'm going to go here and just very quickly show you. Okay, so however, research also has supported efficacy of structured psychotherapy groups for patients. Let me scroll back up so I can find it again. My apologies. Again, I'm doing this live so you can see the complexities and at the same time the ease of doing this. So we're going to highlight this one here. However, research, see, it did it again. However, research also has supported the efficacy of structured psychotherapy groups for patients with a variety of medical, psychiatric, and psychological disorders. And you see there are actually 3 different citations that they're paraphrasing, and they're giving credit to all 3. Well, if I didn't have this here, I might take this sentence and highlight it to say, those are not my thoughts. Again, I'm kind of summarizing something, so I can right click this and I will go down to new comment. And I put a comment in there to myself, and I'd say, let's say this needs a citation. Not my thought. I hit the arrow and it saves. So now I have a comment in there. Well, what if I don't see my comments when I first come here? I'm going to go to review. And under review, I can actually show my comments. I just hit it. I'm going to unhide it and show my comments. Oh, Corey, you put a comment there. These little boxes help you to see that there's a comment. If I wanted to track my changes as I make these comments, I can just hit track changes and it will actually let me know everything that I need to accept or reject. Again, this is all under review for you to consider adding in comments. You can also add a new comment here. If you wanted to do this sentence here, instead of highlighting it, maybe I'll go to review and I'll do new comment. And I'll just put a comment there, check this one. And these are comments for you to help to clean up and clarify your paper before you submit it. You don't submit it with these comments in it. Actually, when you're done, you're going to resolve that comment. And it says, got it, is resolved. I can also delete that comment, delete this thread, or I could delete this comment. Again, there are options when you see these, this ellipsis, these 3 dots, or you can hit delete comment, means that I already resolved it. Or I could delete it, I could resolve it, I could delete all comments in the document. Again, the more you become familiar with Microsoft Word, the more and the easier it will become. Don't forget to remove your highlights by going back to Home, hitting your drop down and saying no color on your line highlight. Because I have on right now under review, I have on the track changes. I'll go to stop track changes by hitting the off. And I'll accept that change. And it will tell you that there are no more highlights and or comments for you to update. So these are just some steps to kind of show you along the way as we work through each of these different processes of verifying if our in-text citation is complete and properly documented. So for each sentence that relies on another source, have you paraphrased as much as possible rather than quoted? If you directly quoted, is the quotation necessary? Could you paraphrase instead? These are good checks to think about. Am I actually really getting into writing academically, or am I just putting in a whole bunch of quotes to make it look like I'm being academic? For each sentence that you paraphrase, did you avoid path writing? Have you done more than omit a few words and substitute synonyms? Or are you actually taking the time to critically, strategically, and rigorously think about and reframe the idea to make them specific to your topic and argument? Again, critically, strategically, and rigorously. That's the point of academia, and that's the point of you getting this great education in international teaching and global learning, is that you can think critically, you can think strategically, and you use rigor, which means that you don't just quickly do it, but you actually spend time showing that this is not easy, but it can be done. Did you avoid overcitation? For long paraphrases, have you used one citation when introducing the idea and not repeated the citation unless there's a change of topic, source, or paragraph? Meaning that there's sometimes you can actually encapsulate 2 or 3 sentences into one and just give credit. For each citation of paraphrase, does your citation include the author and year? Vitally important. For parenthetical citations, is there a comma between the author and year? These are good checks for you to really think about as you go through, and each as you go down is a little more complicated based on the type of in-text citation that you're doing. Here again is another resource I'm going to include for you. What about the journal article reference checklist? Here's a different type of reference, but I'm going to include this. I'm not going to go through it because it's just like the other one. The difference is that there are different things you need for a journal article versus a book. If you're going to paraphrase, I'm going to include this paper in here for you so that you can actually do some activities on paraphrasing and citation. I'm going to walk you through the instructions. They're going to ask you, did you do the proper citation? And you're going to practice it on your own. Ask yourself a few questions. They're going to give you an activity. You're going to paraphrase one sentence. And here's the published sentence. You're going to paraphrase it. Here's the source information. You're going to actually write your own paraphrase sentence. And then you're going to put what your reference list entry would be. So this is about, can you actually take a sample and shorten it, paraphrasing it, Using a parenthetical in-text citation. Parenthetical, you're going to write what your summary is and then put parentheses, author's last name, comma, or the author's, more than one, last name, comma, year. Close out the parentheses and then put your period. Put your reference list entry. And I'm going to scroll down here so you can see that we're not going to leave you in the dark. Here's an example of how they would have paraphrased it with the ampersand, Nowak, ampersand, Zach, comma, 2020, close parenthesis, period. They also show you the reference list entry of how they would have listed this, the last name, comma, first name, period, ampersand after the comma, Zach, comma, first name, just the abbreviation, the first initial, period, parenthesis, year, parenthesis, period, the name, then the actual journal that it came from. Then they have the edition or the volume number. They have the what volume number, like there's just not just a volume. Sometimes there's this is the book 72, volume 2. We'll get into those details shortly. The page numbers, and then they have where you pulled it from, the DOI number. And the beauty of this is if someone were to read your paper, you can just they can quickly click on that. Your teacher can see that that is a real DOI citation. And that's where they got it from. So that citation allows for you to quickly see that this person's not making up this information. So that is, again, another reference I'm including for you. What about the common reference examples? Well, many of those common references are going to be journal articles, online magazine articles, print magazine articles, online newspaper articles, print newspaper articles, blog posts, that's a big one now, authored books, edited book chapters, online dictionary entries, because there are online dictionaries. We can't just say that we got it out of a book. Report by a group author. So a group author would be like World Health Organization. It's not just one author. No one takes individual credit. Then there's a report by an individual author or a press release. And then the conference sessions. And the list goes on. But the beauty here is that we're trying to show you that there are a lot of different examples that you can follow, including YouTube videos. Maybe you got your idea off of YouTube. Maybe you got your idea from a song or track list. The point is that if you follow these guides, you will have your APA 7th edition common reference list matching your exact reference list. And you will be documenting your paper properly. It's all about style. Can you follow the style that other people can quickly follow and say, I know exactly what they're writing about, and I can follow it in a concise manner? Here's a sample reference. Again, that last reference I'm including for you, but here's a 2-page reference sheet in a chapter in an edited book. It actually walks you through how to do it. So you can either use this common reference guide and just mirror what you see there, or you can take a look at this reference guide and it tells you, here's the author's last name. Here's the author's first initial and middle initial, ampersand. And it tells you what each of these pieces are. This isn't the chapter in an edited book. Well, the other two examples they give you here is the journal article and the book. And pretty much if you follow this, you'll be able to follow along with any of these common references that you've seen earlier. So let's close this out as we talk about citations, citing, and references. There are 6 steps to properly cite a paper. The first one is to read the work you want to cite. You must read. The second one is to identify an idea you want to put in your paper. You know what? This actually flows with my hypothesis, or this contradicts my hypothesis. Write a sentence about that idea. You can do this in your outline or just do it in your paper. If you do a sentence outline, you'll be able to just very smoothly add that in and make sure you write a reference list entry for the work. That's where you can use the comment section. You can actually add comments into your document if you're doing Word or if you're doing Pages or any other type of document software. You can write the reference list at that moment. Write that reference list entry so you're not going back doing double work, because it's easy to write a long paper and to miss things. And also add the corresponding in-text citation to the sentence immediately. And then you repeat as needed for more works and more ideas. So again, read the work you want to cite, identify an idea you want to put in your paper, write a sentence about that idea, write a reference list entry for the work, add the corresponding in-text citation to the sentence, repeat as needed for more works and ideas. So we can close this out now because we're moving on to the next part of style. So as we close this current tab, let's cancel this out and let's move on to the next part of this presentation, which is, as I promised you, we're going to actually finalize our discussion today talking about the student paper checklist. So how do we get here? Well, the first thing is that the student paper had to be written. So there are paper elements and formats that we must consider, and that includes the first step of your title. Once you format your title, double spacing the title page, you want to move down to putting your title exactly where it needs to be. And I'm going to show you in a Word document all of these pieces, but this is just a checklist I'm going to include for you. After you do the author name, then you can scroll over to the author affiliation. This is again you speaking about if you're affiliated, and that's mostly not in an academic paper, but it would be in a scholarly work. You don't have to put the school's location unless it's part of its name. The course number and name here, you're going to put the instructor name, and you're just going to go through each of these pieces, and as you check off each of these, you're going to verify, is my paper actually in the format that meets APA 7th edition? Here's the writing style pieces. It's even talking about continuity, conciseness. I mean, this is a very thorough 7-page guide for you to scroll through. And there are hot links here too. If you feel like you've gotten stuck in bias-free language, click on a hot link. If you want to know what clarity looks like, click on the hot link. It'll take you there. If you have issues with grammar, verb tense, active voice, go through the checklist. You'll discover that checklist will actually make the difference between you having a good paper and a great paper. So let's go to the student paper and take a look at this very quickly, and then we're going to get out of here so you can have a chance to review this again. I don't want this to be too long for you. So here we are, our title page. You see at the very top there's a number. That's your page number, and that's going to be in your header. So you see the header there. I just double click that for you and double click out of that. I have my title, student's name, the department that they wrote it for, along with the school. Then they have the class that they're taking, the teacher's name, and the date. Here again is your first level of your paper, and this is again about the section headings and the headings. As you talk about the headings, the first level is going to be centered, it's going to be bolded, and you see that the next line underneath that, these are all double spaced. There's no additional spacing after each of these. They have in here the proper in-text citation. This is the parenthetical in-text citation. They also have, one of the key pointers here is the period is after the parenthesis. They have their transitions, thus, comma. So these are things that you can go through. A guided imagery. This right here must be a book title or a standalone work. Because why? Because it's italicized. Here again, words that they're going to define, progressive muscle relaxation, and then they say involves. So they're basically telling you a term and then adding an explanation behind it. That also can be italicized because it's a new entry and a new word. They have here, when they've summarized an idea, more than one author helped them to come up with that summary or that paraphrase. They have here the that is, comma, that's a good transition, that is, and then the group format helps participants feel accepted and better understand their common struggles. Well, that's a full thought. Why did they put a semicolon there? Because after a full thought, you can continue that rather than with a new sentence. At the same time, here's another transition. So you made a statement, then you say at the same time without using a period, you have a semicolon. At the same time, comma, because it's a transitional statement. Interactions with group members provide social support and models of positive behavior. Then they have the author's name. And what's the beauty of this? They have the ampersand. So it's, again, good for you to take a look at how these things are formatted, because once you realize the format, I promise you, it's just going to be night and day. The flow is going to be easy for you to follow along, because the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Just like reading, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So take a look at the student paper that I'm including for you. And we're going to go back to this final piece here. After we do all of these checklists, your punctuation, your italics, why am I putting punctuation? Why am I using quotation marks, italics? What about my numbers? If you don't have numbers and statistics, you don't have to worry about that. Each of these do not have to be checked through if they're not a part of your paper. You definitely want to think about your spelling and capitalization and abbreviations. But the key here is the thing that I wanted you to get to. As you scroll through all of this and you realize that, hey, I've hit every mark here. My paper is APA 7th edition ready. My paper is finalized. I've done my title page. I've done my reference list. Why am I doing all this? I'm doing all of this so I could say that I am finished. I am finished because I've went through every aspect of a good paper by ensuring that first, I started with my purpose. Second, I began to realize that I needed to put some framework around that. That was my outline. And after I went to my outline, I added in my detail. And then finally, I closed out with my style. So looking at this APA 7th edition concise guide to a student paper checklist, I'd like for you to go through this after you write your paper and make that great paper. Well, not make that great paper. You're already having great papers, but take that good paper you're writing and make it great. And after you make it great, submit it and receive what you earned. I'm so thankful that you allowed me to walk through these 4 stages with you in these 4 steps, because today we have realized that we can get through a good paper, making it great in the 7th edition of APA style. You guys have a great semester, and I look forward to working with you.